All right. Uh, Hi everyone. Welcome to the day 3 of the workshop.
Hi everyone, how are you all doing?
So today is the day 3 of the workshop. I hope you guys are excited. Drop a thumbs up if you are excited. Let's see how many of you are. Great.
Few thumbs up coming in. Were you all able to do the last task? Did you have any trouble? How's it all going?
We went through a few of the previous submissions that previous Figma files, but some of you weren't able to start, I guess. If there is any trouble, do reach out to us on Discord or anywhere.
So at the end of the bootcamp, we'll be collecting all of your submissions, your final submissions. So you have till then, so you can ask us any questions if you have anything.
If you for you to receive the certificate, you will have to do the task for each day. That's why we suggest it and say it every time. Please do consider doing that, because each and every step leads to the final product, right? So each step is important. I think
Shall we?
let's start.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll get started.
let's. All right. Hi everyone. Welcome to day 3 of UI UX Bootcamp, conducted by DSC MEC in collaboration with DevQuest. And if you haven't watched the previous 2 sessions that we took on the introduction to UI UX and on the research part involved, please do check out the previous videos. The link to the playlist would be in the chats. Um, with that, I think let's continue to today's session. So, an overview of what we'll be doing today, and we'll be learning. Janice will be walking you guys through some of the design principles and wireframing, where you will be converting the sketches that you draw in the previous workshop into uh, a low fidelity mockup um, in Figma. So hope you guys are excited for that. This is where you really start using Figma to its maximum. This is the start. So hope you guys are excited for that. Drop the number 7 if you are excited, and let's see that excitement going. And during in the later session, I'll be teaching you guys about typography and how important, why it is important, so you can implement that in your upcoming designs. It's very important very important that you listen to this session very carefully. Do not uh, do anything while we walk you guys through it. So please wait until the end of the session, and if you have any doubts, you can definitely rewatch this video or reach out to us on Discord. With that, yeah, I'm seeing a lot of number 7. um, I think let's start, right?
Yeah, so we'll get started with wireframing. My screen is up now. Okay. So, like Isaac said, these are some things we'll be looking at today. I'll be showing you what wireframes are, how to wireframe, and then I'll be going over some visual design principles. And then at the end, Isaac will walk you through some typography tips and tricks. Okay, so let's get started. So wireframing, till now you have made a user flow diagram and some sketches, right? So sketches are all basically just separate screens, but your user flow diagram has all the navigation through the different screens, right? So a wireframe you're going to create digitally on Figma, and it will kind of connect all the screens, and it will be a combination of your sketches and your user flow diagram. Okay, so this is just an example of what it would look like. Your sketches just connected, all the navigation is shown. So these are two things that you should keep in mind when you wireframe. What is the most important information on the screen? So if you have a login screen, then the login button is the most important part, because that's the part that people are going to interact with. And then you also need to know what buttons are touch points. So touch points, it can be either icons or maybe cards, things like that. What component does the user interact with in order to go to the next screen? And also, when you make wireframes, you don't really use a lot of color. You're not using the final fonts that you're using. It's going to be very low fidelity. So let's say if you take WhatsApp and you go to like a person's chat, you can see that their profile photo is shown, and then their name is displayed. Then on the right side you have the time of the last message, and the last message is at the bottom, right? So that would look something like this. Like it won't be defined that much. It'll probably be black and white and gray and everything. Okay, so before we go to the wireframe, I just wanted to show you some UI components. So you might be familiar with some of these things. Buttons, cards are, if you take Google Classroom or if you go to your Google News feed, you'll be able to see these elements where there is an image and then there is some text and then there is like a share button or something. And all of these are grouped together, right? So that's called a card. Then input fields, if you have somewhere that you need to enter your password, then that's a text box, right? So that's an input field. So some things like that you'll be hearing a lot more in the future sessions. And then a status bar. So if you look at your phone, you can see on the very top, there's a status bar. It shows your time, your battery percentage, then your connectivity, all of that thing. So the status bar will be visible wherever you are on your app, right? So whichever app you're using, whatever screen you're on, the status bar will always be visible. So just keep that in mind when you design. You have to leave a little bit of space at the top for that. And then you'll have a title bar. So that's where you'll have the logo or the name of your app, and then the menu, things like that, the search. Then the bottom navigation will also have different icons there to show you. Okay, so there's this site called Material Design. The link will be displayed here and put in the chat. So Material Design is actually a design library by Google. So they have their own kind of button styles, colors, sizings, everything. So if you want to know more about that, you can just go to that site. The link is up now. You can just check that out. And then the iOS equivalent of that, also that link will also be put up here. So you can see, like, if it's a status bar, it will be 20 pixels tall. So things like that, you can just go through that to see the sizings and the colors, all of those things. I'll be sharing this presentation also later, so you can just go through it. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to get started making your wireframe. So in the last session, I briefly described this project that I did, and it was a project to minimize your food waste and also manage the food in your that you have available to you. So you enter all the ingredients that you have available, and it will generate recipes which make use of those ingredients. So this was the user flow diagram. So here at the X, that is where a user will start, and then the sign in, if they have an account, it will take them to the the welcome screen actually here. If they don't have an account, they can create an account and then it will go to the welcome screen. So this part that I have circled here, right, so this part is the sign-in part. So I'm just going to show you quickly just how to make it. So on Figma, I hope you can see my screen well. I'll just increase the size. Okay. So on the top left corner, you have this frame icon. It's next to the mouse icon. And if you click on that, on the right side, you will be able to see a lot of frames, a lot of templates. So we are going to use Android, which is, if I click it, a screen will appear. And in Figma, actually, the default size of Android is 360 pixels times 640 pixels. But that's a little bit outdated, so I'll just change that. Let me just zoom in a little bit. Okay, so let me just change the height to 720 pixels. So this is like the standard Android sizings, 360 pixels into 720 pixels. Okay, so now I have a screen. And in my sign-in screen, I need an icon to show the logo. So I used an ellipse tool here on the top, and I'll just show you. If I press shift and then drag, it will automatically be proportional, so it will be a circle. And as I move it around, I hope you can see well. Let me know if you want me to zoom in a little bit more, okay? So when I move this around, you can see this red line, right? So that means it's aligned to the center of the page. You also have these icons on the top right, where you can align things. So if I press this, it will align to the left of the screen. This will align to the center, so things like that. Now the next thing I need is a sign-in button. So I'm just going to take a rectangle tool and create a button. Now, the average height of a button is 48 pixels. So I'll just create a button like that, align it to the center, and then create a text using the T icon here. I'll just create a text here and put login. Now here on the right side, I can, you see this text part, right? Isaac will be explaining this a bit more later on. But for now, you can see this align part of the text. I'm just going to make it center. Shift that down a little. And I have my login button. So the next option that I have should be a sign up button. If you don't have an account, you have to sign up first. So I'll just select this button. I'll make my screen bigger. Okay. I'll just select this button and then I'll push down Alt and then I'll drag. And I'll have a duplicate copy of that button. Okay, so now this is going to be sign up. Okay, so now I'm actually going to change this button to a darker color. So here on the right side, you have fill, and then if you click that, you will get this color panel here. I'm just going to change it to a darker color. And if I select the font, again here I'll have a fill. I'll just click on that and turn it into white. Now for the sign up button, I'm going to go to the fill and there's a minus sign here. I'm going to click that, so that removes the fill. I'm going to add a stroke that is below the fill. So if I click on this plus icon, I now have an outline. Okay, so now I have one screen done. Okay, so this is, as you do these screens, just make sure that you double click on this name on top of it and rename it to what you want it to be. So I've renamed it to sign in. Okay, so now I already have made some of these screens, the login part. I'll just show you that. This is the splash screen, and then you have the screen that I just created now. And if you click login, you should be able to enter your email address and then your password and then login. So that's the screen. And if you want to create an account, you should be able to enter your username, email address, and password and then create an account. So on Figma, you actually have this feature on the top right. If you can see, it says design and then prototype and then inspect. So if you click on the prototype bar, now when you hover over all of these buttons, you'll see this circle on the right side, right? So you can actually click on that circle and drag it. So my login button should take me to this screen. So I'm going to click on that circle and then point it to this screen. And my create account button should lead me to this page. So I'm going to click and drag and point to that screen. So now I have 2 buttons and 2 screens to which they will lead me. Okay, so as you can see here on the left side, there's this label that says flow and a triangle, right? So if I click on that triangle, it'll load a new window on Figma itself, and I'll actually be able to see how it looks. So we'll just let that load. And what we are doing right now is combining all your screens to make sure that the navigation works well. So I have my screen here now. If I click on the login button, it will lead me to the login page. So if are you all able to follow me so far? If you have any questions, please ask in the chat. And if you are able to follow me, drop a thumbs up in the chat. At any point, if you have questions about the shortcuts, you can just ask in the chat and then we'll try to help you out. Okay, so now I want to talk about why I made this login button. It's filled, but the create account button, I made it outlined. So in our day 1 task, I saw that many of you submitted things that looked like this. So here on the left side, you can see 3 options: login, sign up, and forgot password. And all 3 of these are the same in appearance. They are all buttons that are filled and they are all the same color. And here on the right, one button is filled, one is outlined, and the forgot password is just a text. It doesn't have a button. So here what is happening is we are creating contrast, right? So in this screen, the most important action a person can do is to log in. This sign up is like the secondary action, and the forgot password is not as important as either of those. So we are using color and form to create visual hierarchy. So visual hierarchy means you are using all these design elements like color to bring your attention to the most important aspect on a screen. So I'll just quickly show you, like, let's say I made these 3 screens now, right? So if I just take that and just randomly paste it to a different page, you can see that the login button here, the create account button, and here the login button, those 3 things stand out the most. Even if I zoom out like really small, you can still see those 3 buttons are like the main things, right? They catch your attention. So if you feel like your screens are getting a little bit cluttered, just try to think about what is the most important action that is happening on that screen, which element is the most important, and make sure that that part looks really prominent. Okay, so now back to the wireframe. I had actually made the rest of the wireframe for the app that I mentioned earlier. I'll just show you how it looks. Let it just load. So this might take a little while for you to do, but if you do this part really well, then you'll be able to do the remaining parts without any confusion. So yeah, so this is my home screen for that app. Now here you can see I have these 4 buttons at the bottom and they're around the same size, but this one at the top is larger. So that is because the inventory is where you add your ingredients. So that is the main feature of this app that I made. So I want to make sure that that part is highlighted. Now if I click on inventory, it will give me a lot of options. Like maybe I can choose from a list that I created. Maybe I can take a photo of an item and add. So a lot of different options like that. I can link to my Amazon account. So if I choose this, it will take me to a place where I can search for ingredients. So now here you can see at the top there is a search bar, right? And there is a button at the bottom, and all these other text as well as images. So here I'll have probably images of vegetables. Here I'll have images of fruits. Here meat and seafood. So all of these things are the same size because they are all of equal importance, and the spacing in between them is also equal. Okay, so let's say I pick something, then I click on next, and it will show a pop-up where I can add quantities, and then I click done, and then it will show the recipes generated based on the ingredients I just selected. So now let me go back to the design. Okay, so here are the screens that I just showed you. So these are all just text. You can use text from the T icon at the top, and then this is a rectangle. So if you take a rectangle, if you create a rectangle, let's go to the side here. If you create a rectangle, and then on the sides you can see the width and the height, right? So you can change that according to your needs, and then you can just use it as you want. And then here again I have text fields. I have text, and then I have a circle here to indicate an icon. So when you do your wireframe, you don't have to make icons. You can just leave a rectangle or a circle to show that there is an icon there. Okay, so now I just demonstrated my app, and I ended on this screen, right? So these are all separate recipes that are being displayed. So now the next screen should be one particular recipe, and it should be in detail. So I'm going to make that screen right now. Go to frame on the top, and I select Android. And like I said before, the standard sizing now is 316 to 720. So I'll just change that to 720. Okay, so this is going to be the screen where one particular recipe is being shown. So the first thing that I want here is an image of the dish. So I'll just create a rectangle here. To show that there is an image here. Okay. So I can change the color if I want. It's better to just leave it gray or white and black itself. Okay, so now the next part is I will have the name, the title of the recipe. So I'm just going to use a rectangle to indicate that the title is here. Okay, so this is just the placement of the title. We'll be adding the text later. And then maybe I want to add another rectangle. I used Ctrl C, Ctrl V to copy paste. And let's say it is the date that the recipe was added, or maybe the person who added the recipe, something like that. Now below that, I want to show 3 different things. So I have a bunch of icons and shapes here. It will be shared to you after the session. It's also in the Notion page, so you can just copy and paste these things that you can use. I'll just copy these. And paste it here. So these are 3 icons. So along with my recipe, I want to show how long it will take for someone to make this recipe. So I'll have a clock icon there and a rectangle to show that there's some text here to show the time. And then the next thing I want to add is maybe like the calories or something like that. Okay, and then the average time it will take to make this recipe. So I'm going to do that. So now I have all these things. It's not really properly aligned. So I'm just going to select all of these things. And on the top right, there is an option to align vertical centers. I hope you can see that. So I'll just click that. And now all of those are along the same line. Okay, so now I just shift it a little like that. Maybe bring this a little closer. Okay, so now, as you can see here, I had the text and the person who made it, or like the date or something. I'll actually add another. The first line is the person's name. Second line is the date that they added the recipe. So these 3 things are kind of, they come under the same group, right? It's information about who made the recipe and what the recipe is. So these 3 things are close together. And then these things here are additional information about the recipe. So there's a little bit of space above that. And then for a recipe, you need to know the ingredients, and you also need to know the steps to create the recipe. So I'm just going to create a rectangle here, like that. And I'll also, the letter R can be used as a shortcut to create rectangles. I'll make another rectangle here. And I'll just bring it down just a little bit. And I will change the color to white. Okay, so what I've indicated using these shapes is actually 2 different tabs. So if this if this is moved to the left, then it will be on the tab to the left, and if it is moved to the right, it will go to the tab on the right. So I wanted to show ingredients and then press Alt and drag to duplicate that, and directions for the recipe. So now here under the directions tab, I can it's just the steps, right? So I'll just put a rectangle to here to show like maybe a heading, and then some smaller rectangles here to show lines of text, I can just Control C and Control V to copy paste. I'll copy that again and paste. I hope you all can follow. If there's anything, do ask in the chat. I'll just add a few more lines there. And then that's the text. And at the bottom, I also want to create a button so that people can add the ingredients of this particular recipe to their shopping lists. So I create a rectangle here. I make it a darker color to indicate that it's a button. And like I said before, the height of a button is usually around 48 pixels. Then I'll just move it up a little. And there can be a text here. I'll just put add ingredient to list, something like that. So the way you phrase all these things and the fonts you use, all of that will be changed later on. This is just kind of a blueprint, so you don't have to worry about that. So with that, this screen is complete. You have a wireframe for the screen. Now, I also wanted to show you something else. So if I show you a screen like this and I ask you to find the orange triangle, it's really easy to do that, right? And if I show you this screen and I ask you to find the orange square, it might take you a little bit longer. And if I show you this screen and I tell you to find the light pink triangle that's pointing to the right, it's a lot more difficult because there's a lot of things happening here. The colors are different, the orientation is different, so it's a lot of chaos, right? So that just shows how people perceive information. So if you have a lot of things that are uniform and then one thing is unique, it will bring your attention to that thing. So similarly, for each screen that you are making, just think about what the most important feature of that screen is. So here we had a button that's important, and here when we add an image, that'll also kind of draw your attention in, and that'll make the whole page look a little bit attractive. So that's something that you can think about as you design your page. Also, here I had a list of recipes, right? So you can see there's an image and then a text, few more lines of text, and an icon to save this recipe, and a button to view it. And then this same thing keeps repeating over and over. So that creates a kind of consistency, and it's easy for you to scroll through that. So I'll just show you one example. If you have a design like this where the fonts are all different and a little bit random, that's difficult to go through. Whereas if you have this kind of design where everything is uniform and consistent, it's a lot more easy to use. So those are all things that you can think about while you design. And with that, I guess we'll move on to the typography part. So if you have any questions, you can ask in the chat. I hope you all are following We'll move to the next part, typography. Isaac, you are on mute.
Oh, sorry. All right, let's move into typography. So, can I get my screen share? All right, all right. Um, Good. So, what is typography? Typography, as we know it, it's more of like just the font size, right? So it's real actually much more than that. So what typography actually is? It's a technique. It's a technique actually. It's a technique to arrange the text so as to bring up more readability, the legibility, so that it's more appealing to the user. So just imagine a website or an app with nothing written on it, just icons, just the design, nothing written on it. How would you feel? You won't be able to do anything, right? You won't be able to know what this button does because there won't be a text on the button. So the importance of the typography comes there. So a website actually consists of typography. Most of 90% of a website is consists of typography. So that's where the importance of typography comes in. Now when considering now when learning about type, we'll actually have to learn a bit more. So there's this term called the hierarchy. So what hierarchy is, when Janice explained, she showed this, right? For the bigger text, we added a bigger rectangle. For the less important text, we added a smaller rectangle. So this is what typography is. The bigger the font size comparing to the other font in its place, the its importance will be more. So in order to do that in an app, we should have a style guide. So this is called a style guide. So in order to build this, we have certain rules to follow. So in an app, when we build an app, there should not be text that is anything less than 14 pixels. So uh, uh, the text size, font size should be 14. So if I click T, the text box will show. I can draw a text box, and I can. We are using the font called Poppins, by the way. You can find it in here, or just type it here, POP, and it will show up there. Just click enter. So, and you can just type the font size here, and we'll type away. So the this is the normal text. Okay. So uh, this should be the minimal font size that you guys should follow. So, and in order to uh, uh, bring up the next font size, the previous font size is multiplied by 1.5. So actually you can do it right here. So you will type in 14 and press into 1.5. I don't know if you can see here. Just type 14 into 1.5 and click enter. So that is 21. And this is the next font size. And for uh, the font size bigger than that, we'll again multiply it by 1.5. So what's it? That's 31. We'll round it up to 32, I guess. Yes. So, and this is the heading H2. And the biggest heading will be, we won't be needing the biggest one in an app, but if it's a website, you guys will need this into 132 into 1.5, that is 48. Now, you guys can see different boxes here, right? So this is the font family, and each font has different sets of uh, weightness to it. Weightness to it. That is, this is currently in regular. You can choose medium, semi-bold. This will increase the seriousness of the font, right? So I'll show you guys two examples. I'll wait before that. And one more thing, this is the line height, and this is the letter spacing. So what lines what line height is that? It's the height of the line if you add one more sentence to it, right? This the spacing between the lines, right? The spacing, you guys can see here, right? If you adjust that, if you sorry, if you can type in the line height, if I type 50, the line height would be more, because the space in between the lines would be more. So that's what a line height is. So for how much should the line height be? So that is also the font size into 1.5. I suggest that you guys write this down because it's really important. So it's some, you can either multiply it with 1.3 or 1.5. You can choose any value in between. Normally we use 1.5, and if it's too big, we'll use 1.3, but we'll multiply it with 1.3. So the line height for this normal text should be 14 into 1.5. That's how much? 21. So for the next one, it will be the font size is 14 into 1.5, that is 21, and the line height would be 14 into 1.5, sorry, 21 into, my bad, 21 into 1.5, that is how much? 31.5. So that's how you add the decide the um, line height. So, and what letter spacing is, it's the space between these letters, right? Because when you uh, increase this, you can actually see the space in between the words are increasing uniformly. Each word is increasing uniformly. So there is actually one more, there is no particular value for it. It actually depends upon the font. So saying about the fonts, there are two types. There are actually many types, but we'll talk about two types. This serif and sans serif fonts. So serif fonts is actually what is meant by serif. So serif is this thing that's protruding out of these letters, right? This part, you can see it here, right? It's like it has two legs, right? So that's what a serif is. And on in sans serif there won't be such a thing, right? See, it's much simpler. So where do we use these two fonts? So serif fonts are used actually in websites like um, the premium looking websites, like you guys can, if you guys know the Rolex logo, it's actually a serif font. So it's associated with trust, respect, the tradition, the formal, the elegance of that particular brand. If you have seen the New York Times newspaper logo, it actually is a serif font. And when do we use sans serif font? So sans serif font is more modern, it's clean, minimal, it's pretty straightforward, nothing fancy. So if you guys have seen the Google logo, right? It's a sans font. They use the font called product sans or Google sans. And if you guys have seen the Spotify written, it's actually a sans serif font. So that's what it is. So uh, so as now you guys know what the sans serif and sans serif fonts are. Now I have a question for you guys. So I'll which would you rather prefer? This one, that is the B, which is pretty much same, and this one, which word do you guys prefer? Let me know in the chat, A or B. I'll wait a few seconds. I hope you guys understood so far. It's pretty much simple. Just the font size, the line height is equal to 1.5 times the font size. See, you guys already see it, right? The difference, you can actually see the difference, right? The separation between the each steps, the opacity of the font is reduced, the weightness of the font is reduced. This is regular, this is semi bold, and the main heading is also increased. right? Yes, great. All of you guys are. One of you said B. I don't know why. There's nothing more appealing about that because it's not readable. It's just a clutter in front of in front of our eyes, right? It's just a clutter. So what in order to achieve this, what I did is I'll show you guys. Let me just move it a little bit further. I just moved it by selecting the move tool and then just dragging the frame. Okay, just you guys know. And uh, this is a very important part of the um, wireframing and the upcoming session. So when you uh, draw the mockups, draw the wireframes, right? Instead of drawing these rectangles, you can actually use the typography rules, these things. So we'll be adding this hierarchy order in the assets page. Don't worry about that. So you guys know how it would be to choose the different styles, right? Now, how did I create this? So this is you guys, if you guys can see clearly, this is the it just says lorem ipsum. I don't know what the hell this is. So this is actually a plugin where you can actually import content. Text that is we'll show you guys that later. If you guys can add the content, just type in random letters for now, and in the next session we'll show you how to uh, download a plugin into Figma. So that will be in the next session because otherwise it will be too much for you guys today. So how did we land on this page? So in order to create that, I just copied a text, Control C, and I just drew a text box by clicking T. Okay, and I just drew a text box of any some size, and I just pasted it. Control V. All right. Now, initially, when you do it, your opacity, this is the fill color, right? The color of the text. And the opacity is this, the 100%. So initially it would be 100%. And oh, wait, I'll add a frame here too. 1 second. So in order to add a frame, just click on F, then just draw one and make sure the size is 360 into 720, if you guys remember from Janice's session. All right, and I'll drag this. I'll just Control X, go cut this text, and then select this frame and paste it here, so that it comes inside the frame. Now I'll place the first text here. I'll add a bit more width to it just by dragging one of its corners. Or you guys can play around with this part, that is the auto width, which means if you click auto width, let me just delete this, or just I'll click T and then just click on auto width. So as you guys type the text box, right, the bounding box, if you guys uh, sorry, I'll zoom in. This box, right? It adds width to the box automatically. And if you guys select this auto height part, it will add the uh, height of the text box. So if I select this one and press enter, it would continue adding the height of the text box. So that's how it's done. Now for the next, we have to write step one. So I'll draw a text box here and write step one, and step one. All right. So now the text box is a bit bigger, right? So in order to reduce that, you guys can double tap on the corner of this text box, so it would be automatically aligned. I'll show you guys again. If the text box is this big, you guys can double tap on the text box, the boundary of the box, to make it even. So now what will consider is the weight of the font size of the text step 1. So we'll multiply 14. This is currently 14. That is 14 into 1.5. What is it? 21. And we'll increase the weight of the font to semi-bold so that it becomes more prominent to show its importance. So to read that first. So, and we'll reduce the opacity of uh, the text here to 70 or 80%, let's say 80%. And what should be the line height of this? That is 14 into 1.5. That's a bit too much, right? It's a bit too much space. So what I'll do is I'll do 14 into 1.3. Remember, I told you that it would depend according to the uh, text that the field that we're working on. So this is a pretty much simple short font, right? It doesn't need that much line height. So we'll do that. And now I'll select both these by clicking shift and then pressing alt and dragging, right? So I'll place it here, leaving enough space. The space between the step 1 and the previous content should be more than the space between these two, so that the user know this is a separate step. It is in no way associated with the previous step. That is why the space between, remember, listen carefully, the space between these two, the steps, that is the previous content and this step, this height should be more than, this spacing should be more than the spacing between these two steps. So we'll do that in the next class too. It is important that you guys know this earlier in this stage. And that's about typography. And if you guys have to, I'll just add these two steps here. Also, I'll add the directions too. The step 3 is the pretty same thing. So I'll copy this text by dragging alt and then typing in directions. So the text size should be, this is 21 right now, into 1.5. That is, I don't need this much boldness, so I'll reduce it to medium. And the line height should be, currently there is no line height. As you guys can see, the bounding box is too congested. So I'll do 32 and then 32 into 1.5. That is 48. That would be the line height. So this is how you do a hierarchical method of doing typography. It's very important. You guys can literally see the difference, how clean this is, and legible to read this part, right? From what we seen before. This is just medium. The font is just too cluttered. Now it's breathable. So that's how you do typography. And let's see the number 9 in the chat. If you guys have understood typography so far, if you guys have understood the importance of typography, please do put the number 9 in the chat. And if you have any doubts also, you can ask them in the chat. You guys can watch this video anytime. It's just a simple rule. There is actually people who do only typography, nothing else, no UI, no design. They do only typography. They are the ones who create these fonts. So there is actually a field only related to typography. If you are into this, you can definitely go ahead. But for this UI workshop, you guys will be needing only this much. And yeah, yes, I see a lot of nines. It's great that you understood so far. If you have any doubts, please do ask them now. So Janice, if you please tell them the task for today.
Okay, so the next task for you is to create a wireframe. So based on your user flow diagram and the sketches that you made, you can make a wireframe for your app. That's your task.
Right. And if you
So
guys have any doubts regarding using the any of the tools or shortcuts will be uh, adding into the uh, resources page of the Discord. So don't worry about the shortcuts. You guys will easily move into that soon enough.
I think we have a question.
What's the question?
Link two designs in two different pages. So
So today's part actually will be added as a different page in the assets tab. Is if that's what you mean. It won't be together. You guys can find it easily.
did
And
you
make
mean
sure.
the did you
Uh,
mean the uh,
yeah, continue.
so the question, is it related to the flow, the play button that I showed on Figma?
And for the wireframe today's task, please don't use the rectangles that we saw. Please do the typography part as well. So because that's the same part we'll be doing, copying it to the actual UI that will be doing in the next class. So please stay tuned for that. That would be this is the session that you've been waiting for, because this is where you actually add color to it, or everything will come to light. So that's the session you'll be waiting for. That is what you need to show in the presentation for your project. So stay tuned for that.
Can I just have
And
my screen? I'll just quickly show that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so you see the prototype tab at the top right? So you can just click there, and here you can see let's just say I have some element here. You can see this circle at the right. So if you click and you drag it, then it will lead to a different screen. So now if I play this, here as you can see, the login part I attached to this screen, and this particular rectangle I attached to the create account screen. The create account button also I attached to the create account screen. So if that comes, then let it just load. So
If you have, yeah,
if I press the create account, it will go to this page. Now if I go back, if I click on this rectangle, again it will go to the same page. So whichever part you point the arrow to, that's the screen it will go to.
so if you guys have any doubts on this part, we can get on the workroom in Discord server. Ping us at any time. We'll explain that there. If you guys want that, please to share your opinion on the Discord server doubts there, so we can go through that as well. I hope you guys are doing the task well, because you will need to submit that at the end of the workshop to receive your certificate. I think there are no more questions. More than one font with an app. Okay, so usually we don't use more than two fonts. I actually use only one for, or something for the headings. I use a separate font, but for using font, you guys only need to deal with one font, I think. Yeah, you should be able to do it with one font. It would be more confusing to use two fonts in this early stage. So currently use one font as of now. If you want, you can definitely use two fonts, but I would suggest, if you are a beginner, absolute beginner in this, I would suggest you use start with one font, and then after doing practicing on this, you'll be uh, inspired to do more.
I also wanted to clarify these arrows you can point only to any screens you have in your current page. So if that's what you meant, if you have another page here, then you won't be able to link those.
Yeah, that's what you
So
asked, I
only
think.
what is there in the current page.
Right. All right, let's wind up the session then.
Yeah, if there's anything else you can ask in Discord. We can, yeah, okay. So we can get on a voice channel and have discussions if you want. You can just message.
Cool. All right then, guys. Hope you guys do the tasks, and wait for the next session where we'll be using types and icons and all, and we'll be working with plugins. It would be a lot of fun. The next session, please do share the playlist of this to your friends so that they can get started on UI UX as well. And if you are watching this as a recording, please do join our Discord server, which the link would be provided in the description of this video. And we'll see you guys soon. Hope you guys enjoyed this session. For this, you guys can just, for icons, you guys can just add a rectangle as of now. So on the next session, we'll show you guys from where you can download the icons into Figma. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, it will be too much for this workshop, this task. All right, then. See you guys.
Bye.